Hey guys, this is Patricia. So I'm feeling a lot better. In fact, I'm going to be doing the final touches of the videos that have been long overdue since Christmas. I know that a lot of people are probably not going to watch it due to the fact that it's not Christmas anymore, but still, I want to be able to post it and get myself ready for the first videos of 2023. I also posted up a video a few days ago wondering if you guys want to see some merchandise from Old School Lane. And if so, if you can, please fill out a poll that was on the link down below of that video. I really would appreciate it to give your feedback on what you would like to see. So what you're about to listen to is the second episode of the third season of the 2020 Disney Channel animated series, The Owl House, that we talked about on Arun and Patricia. So for those who don't know, Arun and Patricia is a weekly podcast series where we talk about various pop culture news, and we've been watching season 3 of The Owl House. But that's not the only show we've talked about. We've talked about the Disney Channel animated series Amphibia and the Disney/Pixar animated series Monsters at Work. So I just want to let you know that there are major spoilers ahead. If you have not seen the second special of The Owl House for the future, then go click on the YouTube link in the description below. If you have not listened to our discussions of The Owl House, then we have an entire playlist that you can be able to listen to, from episode recaps to discussions about how each season plays out. If you have caught up, then sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Okay, Owl House Season 3, Episode 2, For the Future. Good grief, was this was so much packed into this episode, and it looks to me...
It's always the same thing with the first episode as well, which was called Thanks to Them, which we did not discuss about in Arun and Patricia. If you want to know more information about that, go check out the episode of Casual Chats, where we discussed about it during Old Spook Lane Creepy Chats.
Yeah, by the way, the reason why it ended up being a Casual Chat is because Arun and Patricia wasn't on the air at the time, so we ended up like, oh, hang on a second, Arun and Patricia's not on the air, but yet we still got an Owl House episode coming up, so we just decided to do it as a one-off, do a Casual Chats, and that's how we got it over there. So if you want to listen to that, it's not on the Arun and Patricia podcast feed, it's on the Old School Lane YouTube channel, so go listen to it on that. But anyway, we're going to continue on with what we're talking about right now, and we start off basically as we did as the last episode. We start off with the fact that the Collector has basically torn the Boiling Owls apart and is now reimagining it in his own form, pretty much. And not that he's aware of like what he seems to be doing. He seems to be... So it looks like to me we're seeing a retelling of the Collector from what we're seeing. And because the reason why I mention this, because I want to get away from a criticism that was in my head when I was watching this, and that is that, do you remember back in Hollow Mind when we were first introduced to the Collector in in the form, and he looked like he was kind of portrayed as like this heartless sociopath that seems to take joy out of like watching Golden Guards being dismantled, and various the fact that Belos himself seems to be getting angry. And I'm starting to wonder, is this Belos' idea of what the Collector is, and what we're being introduced now is what the Collector really is? And that is that this seems to be...
I think that where the Collector is, I take it that he is influenced by whoever that he's alongside with, that he never got a chance to be by himself. He's always been with somebody who he can be able to play with and be around with, because he's always been lonely and he didn't like being lonely. So by being around Emperor Belos, being bloodthirsty and hating witches and doing all of these crazy experiments, I take it that he started developing that sense of bloodthirstiness and sadism that Emperor Belos had.
Yeah, so, I mean, the fact that now he's with King, and King is trying to, basically be his, what's the name of that character from Pinocchio? I can't believe
Jiminy Cricket.
He's trying to be Jiminy Cricket in some way. He's trying to be his conscience and be his guide, but obviously he's not working as well the way that, Jiminy Cricket probably would have done with Pinocchio. And the fact is that, also Pinocchio was not an immortal star being with, the ability to basically transform reality. So...
No, he was a little wooden boy, but yeah, I guess I can see where the comparisons to how King acts to the Collector and how Jiminy Cricket acts to Pinocchio is pretty justifiably so, because both of them don't know the meanings of right and wrong, and it's up to their conscience to set them straight. With King trying to set straight toward the collector, where he does have some privileges. Like, for example, he's not a puppet like most of the characters over at the Boiling Isles, and he's able to gain access to quote unquote feeding the owl beast. So he does have some sense of freedom, but for the most part, he is alongside with the collector, mostly out of fear due to the fact that, well, the collector can easily turn him into a puppet.
Well, this is the thing. Like, I don't think. I mean, King obviously fears, like, what the collector can do, but at the same time, I think he is trying to, like, the angle that King seems to be going on is that he's not going to face the collector head on, which I think somewhere down the line he is going to have to. I mean, but eventually that's an episode to discuss for another time. But I feel like King's whole place in this and the position that he finds himself in is that he's trying to basically befriend the collector, and so when he's trying to talk him away out of basically being destructive and everything like that. Now, towards the end of the episode, it looks like we are going to find out that King has a better idea than just to trap him again. And things like that, because by the way, funny enough, like there is a continuity error in the, unless this has already been explained, but at the very beginning of the episode, Lilith and Hootie tried to rescue King from the collector, and then end up getting turned into puppets, effectively, or toys, or whatever the collector is able to turn the people into. And so after doing that, though, Lilith is actually recovered from either the magic that the collector possessed on her. Or I don't know, it's just the fact that, King convinced the collector to let her go. I'm not too sure.
Well, I mean, that's what happened. If you remember that we saw later on in the episode that King was able to convince not only of Ida being let go because she's the owl beast and she has a curse on her, but also Lilith for pretty much the same reason. I take it that maybe the King was able to convince the collector that they're both really dangerous, they have a curse on them, and this whole game with, like, let's play the owl house, and we have Terra Snapdragon dressing up as Ida.
Oh yeah, we saw that in, and so it looks like, I mean, here's the thing, I'm guessing that we're where, do you remember back in Halo 2 when Cortana is trapped by the monument, and what was happening is that she pretty much is trapped in a position where she has to answer the questions of the monument and the flood and things like that. Basically tell them basically what she knows and everything. That's she's she's basically a prisoner in that. And I'm guessing King is in that sort of situation where the collector will obviously have a childlike curiosity over what the King knows and also where he is and things like that. So he'll ask the King questions about everything. So I'm assuming at this point that the collector now, after hearing about what the King has told him, that he's acting out these stories that he's heard of, like saving the Boiling Isles from the beast and things like that. So that's seems to be the way that the collector, he's kind of like, the collector watched Batman, for example. I'm pretty sure if the collector watched Batman, I'm sure the collector would want to be Batman. Pretty much,
and I take it that the collector has played a lot of Kirby because everything around it just looks like Planet Popstar.
Oh, good grief! It reminds me. I'm sure I brought this up in the past. I brought this up on the Twitter feed. The Twitter channel, scroll that I did before the episode released. But it sort of reminds me. If you remember on the Angry Video Game Nerd video game where you play one of the levels and it's just really bright and sickening.
And it was filled with rainbows and just a whole bunch of things. I remember.
It's that, and the minute I saw it, I just felt I felt the urge to vomit. It just looks so sickly. It reminds me of it's that Weird Mageddon in Gravity Falls. And sorry for spoiling.
Yeah, it looks like Mabel's Dreams, which is just covered with rainbows and hot boy bands and stuff like that. So basically it's kind of like a mixture of what happened with both Weird Mageddon and with the war with King Andreas in Amphibia, where you have basically everybody who's suffering and going into hiding so that they can be able to protect themselves, while at the same time here's this crazy colorful vomit-inducing rainbow colors filled to the brim with just childish stuff, with puppets and marionettes and toys and stars and rainbows, all flooded in this what essentially is a floating carcass of an island.
Yeah. So, that seems to be the back and forth that King and Collector seem to be having at the moment. So, I mean, in regards to our main protagonist, so, we start off actually, once we get through the credits sequence, that Luz is stuck once again in the mirror realm, from the looks of it. And
Yeah, she's in the in-between, and she sees this weird shadow, and we see it from upside down, but I think somebody even posted it on Reddit or something like that, where it was like a creature that had wings in it, and it had a male voice, so maybe we'll find out who it is in the last episode.
Well, Elijah, so shout out to Not So Average Fangirl, she is suspecting it's King from another time. So it might be King from the future.
That should be really interesting.
I mean,
especially since we've had travel back in time multiple times in the episode in which when Luce and Lilith met up with Philip Wittebane.
I was going to say, that's been called into play pretty much in how this world works. So it is possible that we might get, more time travel, maybe, maybe I don't know. We'll have to see how the next episode plays out. But we don't know who this character is right now. But I mean, again, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Pretty much, we've been here before, pretty much, with these type of characters.
Yeah, exactly. And we've been tricked with the whole, oh wow, look at this creature that kind of looks like King. Is that his dad? Is that somebody that belongs to his clan or something? And no, it was just a bunch of Titan trappers. So yeah, we've been fooled once before.
Exactly. In fact, there's actually a reference to the Titan trappers in the in the archive house that the Collector's built for himself. Pretty much, if you look on the walls, you can see that there's all these hieroglyphics of the Collectors, disguising themselves as Titans to fight them from within. Pretty much.
It makes a lot of sense considering that where we saw the mirror from the Titan trappers, they worship the Collector and they were planning on killing King so they can set the Collector free. So it's true. I mean, they both had a mortal enemy, which were Titans. And we see that in the Collectors and with the Titan trappers. And there's the passage that King was reading to the Collector as a bedtime story, that the book was so big that it circled around the earth, that it was involving with that they trap things, they collect things, they seal things away so that they can be able to store it. So we can probably deduce that in the episode Knock Knock Knocking on Hootie's Door, that the reason why that one of the Collectors was trying to capture the Albeast was to preserve it.
Yeah, we don't actually know, this is the thing. The other, it seems to be that this is not the only Collector. There are other Collectors that are, in this world, from what we can see. So, we've never met, the only one Collector we know right now is the one that's called the Collector, the Kid. So we don't know any of the other ones that are around. Whether they exist or not still, we don't know. But, that part of the story is yet to be explored, and dare I say, come the next episode. And this is the thing we're going to keep saying, the next episode. This is building up towards, the big finale, pretty much, this one, which, a second to last episode should do. So, in that regard, it has done its job. Pretty much.
Yes, it has done its job. It switches in between both the Collector and Emperor Belos, in which we see Belos struggling to crawl himself over to the Boiling Isles, trying to find himself a body that he can be able to sustain himself. At first, he goes over to the cave where he tries to actually get into Caleb's body, but it's rotted so much that he can't sustain himself. And then he decides to go over to where the Collector is, and we see Odalia, and we were thinking, oh man, is he going to possess Odalia, and it's going to be double chaotic evil? But no, he actually controls Rain.
Another thing that we've actually kind of brushed over is that he's, I don't know if these are just hallucinations or whether there are ghosts in the Boiling Hour as well, but Caleb comes up, and also the other Golden Gods also around as well as spirits. From the looks of it. So,
or maybe that's just going through Belos's mind of all the regrets that he's done of essentially cloning his brother into golden guards that he gets to push around over and over and over again. So it could be that there might be ghosts in the Boiling Isles, or maybe that's just, the sins of his regrets.
I don't know, is ghost magic a thing in the Boiling Isles? That would be interesting.
I have no idea. I've never seen anybody control ghosts in the Boiling Isles, but at this point in time, maybe.
Well, there will be. What's the magic that Adalia's got, and what's the magic that the Mongol's got?
Yeah, she's an oracle, so it has nothing to do with ghosts.
Oh well, I mean, it's controlling some spiritual kind of things, maybe.
Yeah, it's a spirit, yes, but It's I don't think it's a ghost though. It doesn't look
Well,
anything like the ghost that we saw with Odalia's necklace.
yeah, well, it's not illusion magic. We can definitely tell you see that. We can definitely tell you that. So like, I just think that maybe what is. I don't know. Like, it's just it tells me it's something he's going to play into the downfall of Belos in some way. Maybe I'm not too sure, but anyway, I think the one thing I'll say about all of that is that we now have Belos, who is now controlling Rain pretty much as a puppet.
And by the way, most of the Coven heads are now puppets.
Yeah, but the one thing that everyone was like thinking that when we got there's one scene in this where Belos is towering over Odalia and is like, oh wow, Odalia is going to be the one who gets possessed, is next to get possessed by Belos pretty much, and that's going to be her her comeuppance pretty much for this. But no, Rain surprisingly is well, which it's kind of really, you think it would make more sense to make it Odalia or Mama Dahlia, if you want to say that's where she is
Mama
now.
Dahlia.
But, exactly, yeah.
You posted up that stupid meme of the what was
yeah.
it, the Super Mario Brothers clip from Mama Luigi episode.
Mama Dahlia. Oh, that was brilliant. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Also, like, people mentioned, like, where that Yoshi likes bagels and his collector likes pizza bagels as well. It's like,
Yeah, pizza bagels. This and Steven Universe are just really obsessed with pizza bagels for some reason.
Okay, like the bedtime story now. okay. Oh
yeah, I guess they really liked the Tocino pizza bagels that used to show in commercials in the 90s.
Yeah, like it seems to be a thing. So
yeah,
but basically, like that just kind of plays into like the innocence of the collector. Like it's a child. Pretty much at this point. And this is the one thing, like, you can't, that is one thing that kind of, like, separates, people like, who want to, like, really do some, like, horrible things to him. Like, it's a kid. Like,
yeah, exactly. In fact, if you remember going back into when King reads him the bedtime story, he actually scribbled off a paragraph that said, "But should they meddle in our affairs, we'll clean the planet and scorch the air." And he scribbled it off by saying that, he wants to actually play instead, and he wants to have fun. He doesn't want to, destroy everything.
Well, this is the thing, like, and I get that this show's been cut short, so obviously they've got to cram all this in as much as they can, but at the same time, it's like, it would be interesting to see more dialogue or, like, more backstory between, like, this collector. One thing I was hoping to hear from the collector is, like, we know that this kid is lonely. And we know that, right now, like, the best friend he's probably ever had in, like, thousands of years has probably been King. Like, because King will, like, entertain him and, like, do everything he can to, like, be his friend and everything like that for...
Exactly, and he thought that his best friend for hundreds of years was Philip Woodabane, now Belos.
Exactly.
Because he was promising him, oh, I'm going to set you free and you could do whatever you want just as long as you do exactly what I say. And he felt betrayed by it because he's been with, Philip for 400 years, trapped and wanting to play games, but Philip never wanted him with that in the first place. He just wanted to use his power for the Day of Unity so that he can be able to drain off the magic and kill all the witches so that he can be able to, quote unquote, cleanse the world from their evil. So the collector, now having the opportunity to play games and be with his best friend King, is something that he's always wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, like, it's, the collector really is, once again, it's another character that is not just, evil for the sake of being evil. It is like there is a complex backstory to this character. But unfortunately, the problem that I've got is, and I get, like, everything that's happened, but we have to call it what it is. There's not all that much explanation that we've seen as of yet. Maybe in the next episode, we're probably going to get that explanation, and we're just not getting it now. But I would have liked a bit of dialogue from Collector to say, back before Belos, this is the, this, that, and the other happened, and that's the reason why I ended up befriending him, because obviously he did, he did seem like, someone who I'd not, had a chance to spend time with, or, I'm just all on my own, and I have no idea what to do, and, I would have liked to have heard a bit more about where he's at, really, and but I don't know if it's whether he's just like he's trying to distract himself with, like, just being like a kid and things like that. And like, so he wants to play all these games, and he's interested in like, keeping himself, away from ever like, sitting down and talking about. Maybe that's one thing that's probably going to end up happening. Maybe. And maybe that's his where the arc that he's going on. Maybe there is, maybe he has got some baggage himself that he needs to kind of deal with. And by the way, before we get into that, we should talk about everybody else. So Willow obviously has a massive breakdown in this episode, and but here's the thing, like good things do come of it. So Willow is like carrying the fact that she misses her parents and she is really stressed out with the situation, but is staying strong with everybody just for everybody else's sake. And Camila turns around and says, "Are you okay? You're right carrying all of this." And she goes to, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. Why are you asking?" It's like, and that's a good place to say you are not fine. And we see like the whole deconstruction of Willow. She's losing control of her magic. It overpowers her. It nearly kills Gus, and it nearly kills Hunter. And it's only that Hunter, discovers the magic inside of him, that he's able to free himself from the vines and free Willow from the vines, and say to her, "Look, you shouldn't be carrying all of this. Tell me everything that's going on." And eventually, as she starts to open up and starts to, really, emotionally, come forward to Hunter, that everything starts to kind of go back to somewhat normal again, pretty much.
Yeah, and it does make a lot of sense that Willow has all of this pressure on her because she wants to be able to make sure that everybody's fine. She wants to make sure that nobody's stressed out. And it makes a lot of sense considering that everybody is stressed out with everything that's been going on. I mean, we see Hunter, who's been angry throughout the first half of this special because he recently lost Flapjack and he doesn't want to have Emperor Belos meet up with the Collector, so because then that will just cause a bunch of trouble. And then we have Gus, who is going through his struggles because he saw, and I'm glad that they actually brought this up, he knew from the very beginning that Hunter is a Grimwalker because he was able to see the memories of Emperor Belos. And we also have Luce, who's also going through her struggles as well because she feels that everything is her fault. Amity's going through her struggles because she doesn't know where her family is and being trapped. And we also have the situation where Camila's seen everything and she's trying to process the boiling isles, even though that is really strange to her. So we have all of this stuff going on, and Willow feels like that she needs to be the strong one.
Mm-hmm. So, and by the way, out of that, I mean, Hunter, pretty much confesses, his love basically for Willow, and we get Huntlow as official. So, like, that's a great
yeah,
thing.
Even though that Zeno Robinson on Twitter had pointed out that it was just a friendship.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. So. We knew from everybody knew that this was going to happen pretty much. So like it was it was just going to be like not if but when, I think.
Yeah, pretty much
at this point. So
and it makes a lot of sense why Hunter would relate to Willow because we saw with Basha, Basha's back, by the way, that she was getting back into her old insecurities about being called half a witch Willow. And we already know from the beginning of the series that Willow didn't have an idea what her powers would be. She thought that she was going to be really good with abominations, but it turned out she was really good with plant magic and she wasn't able to develop as quickly as the others. And so she felt like, I'm just not as good as everybody else, but instead she's a late bloomer. Well, we have somebody like Hunter who, because he's a Grimwalker, and he doesn't have magic on his own, he felt like, well, maybe I'm not like everybody else. I need to have like artificial magic so that I can be able to do what I need to do. So both of them not having magic or not showcasing their magic when they should be, I guess it makes a lot of sense why he would relate to Willow, and even says to her, don't you ever call yourself that, because he sees her as a strong, capable leader who is very kind and caring, and he feels really sad when she degrades herself like this.
Yeah. Speaking of Basha, oh boy.
Oh God.
It's here's the thing about this. Unfortunately, I'm disappointed with the Basha character, I think, and I get putting aside all the shenanigans. I mean, like there's one other character I think that was written. This type of character I think has already existed, has been written better, and do you know who that person was?
Let me guess, Amity.
No, Sasha from Amphibia.
I thought you were talking about within the same show, but
No,
yeah, you're
no,
right.
no. Yeah, exactly. Like Sasha, funny enough, who rhymes with Basha. Unfortunately,
He does.
yeah, Sasha was written way better, I think, than Basha has basically been. And I get she's only a side character, and she's pretty much a semi-antagonist pretty much at this point. But I think I really wish Basha had. I wish Basha had the Sasha arc. I really did. She realizes that, her bullying ways are not going to get her through the situation, and she's still, the only reason why she's not kind of fully turned yet is because she's traumatized by what happened with when the Collector took over and took her teammates away from the Grudgeby team. She has that, so she feels really insecure about that, and that's the reason why Kikimora can, by the way, Kikimora's back in this, by the way.
She is back by this, and I'm really glad, too, because throughout the previous episodes on season 2, she was building herself up into being like, oh, is she going to be the one to take over after Belos? Is she going to be the one to betray him? And then we saw in the last episodes that, oh no, she's actually been demoted. I'm glad that she was able to get some form of just one last time where she was able to show off that she's evil and she wants to be able to control everything. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, but I don't know what Kikimora's deal is. She is really just like a lackey, pretty much.
Exactly. She's a lackey, and like Luz said, she's a lackey that has no cognitive thought within herself. She just follows whoever the big person is.
She's worse.
I guess in this case,
I guess you could probably say she's worse than Snively from Sonic Satam. Pretty much, unfortunately, Kikimora, I think the downside with that being is that she's pretty much every generic lackey that we've basically seen in the last 40 years of animation, pretty much. I
guess I can see why some people will be really disappointed with that, especially since a lot of people compared her to Azula.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's Kikimora is like every other generic, kind of Luz even points this out in the show. Pretty much, she's like, do you ever notice that sometimes, inadvertently, characters break the fourth wall in the show?
Yeah, because, it's obvious due to the fact that, the writers and even Dana herself already know about the fan base long enough to know, this is what our fans think of these characters. We're going to point it out, which we'll get to later on when they reveal on what Luz's palisman is.
Yeah, so, so Luz really calls out Kikimora at one point and says, you're just, just following everybody else. You've got no original ideas of your own, pretty much. And it's just wow. It's just that was a big dig at Kikimora in this, and I guess she is. She is supposed to be a disliked character in the show. And by the way, every show has a massively disliked character, but at least in some way they are written well. For this.
Sure. But I take it just like you said that I'm sure if we would have gotten a full season 3, they probably would have developed Kikimora a lot more.
I don't think so.
Okay.
If they did, they would have developed her in season 2. There was no, at that point, and also it looks like she was turning anyway because, she was willing to, do something to hurt Belos at this point after being betrayed, and so it's maybe she probably would have learned something out of that, maybe, but she didn't. If anything, she pretty much, manipulated Basha into not, following through with her, character redemption, pretty much. So that's how terrible of a character she is, pretty much in this show. But going back to Basha, again, I really wish they had enough time to do the full turn with her and to realize that she's basically been pretending she's been queen of the school. Then Luz comes around, messes that up, and she gets really angry about it. Then obviously she has that moment where she'll maybe if they had done a full season 3, maybe they would have done Luz versus Basha, and then Basha basically gets her ass kicked by Luz, and then she then realizes the reason why she realizes the reason why she lost Amity in the first place and all her friends, because Luz obviously is a nicer person than she is.
And the fact that Basha was just so desperate to have things back the way they were, where Amity and her were best friends and taking over Hexside and being the bullies and being on top of the food chain. She was saying, come, Amity, stay with me. We can rule New Hexside together. We can be best friends again.
That made me cringe so much. You know what it reminded me of?
What's that?
Inspector Gadget. Remember when, like, the fake Inspector Gadget's on the bridge and, like, they says, oh, why don't we join forces together? We can rule the world. And then, Matthew Broderick, gives, like, the cliche, like, you should have quit while you were ahead and throws him into the Long Island Sound or something, or whatever.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it's like, that just kind of gave me that kind of vibes, really. And, like, when you're giving me vibes from a bad movie, that's not good.
Yeah, it just shows how desperate she is, that she's willing to do anything just for things to get back to normal at the expense of everybody suffering. Like, with her ruling and, not knowing that she was being advised by Kikimora, Hexside is in disarray. Like, everybody's fighting over food and everything is falling apart. It kind of reminds me of when, Mr. Simmons became principal of PS 118 and then the kids just wreaked havoc.
Well,
even the kindergartners were going crazy.
The difference between Mr. Simmons running the school in Hey Arnold and Basha running the school in the Owl House is that, they basically walked over Mr. Simmons pretty much. Like, he had no authority pretty much. And, but here's the thing, like, Basha is so libertarian with the way that she runs things. She basically just, says, oh, well, everyone can just, go about their own way, it's the gold standard pretty much now. So, like, everyone's just kind of, like, making up their own rules and just going away. And then, if they want, and she's just really hands off and, she only basically intervenes when someone actually interferes with her power. That's all she really
exactly.
gets. And everyone else is distracted pretty much. Like, it's just that's it's sort of the way that the news were running Amphibia, pretty much in that. Like, it's like, oh yeah, well, if anyone gets like in our way, we'll just get the Toads after them, pretty much.
Right,
but everyone else can just go about their own way, pretty much.
Yeah, and I guess Mytholomew of all characters is acting as the leader, having strategies and plans and being able to map out about what they can be able to do to get things back to normal. It's like, this is surprising considering it's Mytholomew, for crying out loud.
Yeah, like, well, I think Gus had like a positive influence on him, pretty much, and so like when he had that, I think this is the great thing about our characters here. Every time they interact with somebody who we think is like just beyond the pale, pretty much, like, they have the, with their good nature and with their, just with their good character telling and things like that, they're just able to, like, carry stories over and even arc them over to where they should be. And, that's great things about, strong characters now. The fact that they have the authority to be able to command such a presence on the screen that they influence the side characters around them, that's great. Like, it doesn't surprise me that he was going on that thing, because, Gus had so much of a positive influence on him, going back to, what was it? Not Wing It Like Witches. It was, what was the other episode? Through the Looking Glass Ruins.
Yeah, Through the Looking Glass Ruins, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, so...
Yeah, and I think that seeing everybody and how they were able to try to hide from the Collector, it makes a lot of sense considering of the paths that they went through. I mean, we had Edric and Emra coming in, and poor Edric having to be in a body cast because he fell in a well that was filled with rocks. And then we had Viney, who came along and trying to make sure that everybody was okay, and then trying to, and poor Bacchus. Like, Bacchus is trying to, like, do this big riot because his daddy was captured. So yeah, I just think that seeing everybody, it was kind of nice to see what they were up to, but for the most part, yeah, just Basha is still awful.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then I suggested that there would be more friction between Luz and Camila in this, and from the beginning there was, because Luz just kind of like waved off her mother at one point when she wanted to talk to her, and she just walked away, pretty much. And I thought, we got some more, in between the mother and daughter here. And it wasn't until, Camila really intervened, because, let's keep this in mind, in a way, she feels, responsible for most of the things that have happened, because, she obviously tried to, put Luz in that camp, and obviously that kind of like made all the events happen that have taken place now, pretty much. That's the great thing about all of this. Everybody has had an influence in the story. Like, from the very beginning of Luz's life, pretty much, that, you had two, nerdy parents, pretty much, who were really into Cosmic Frontier. And, they both themselves made all sorts of mistakes. And, Camila pours her heart out about all the mistakes she made in her life. And she says, look, that's the way that you just live through life. All the mistakes that that I've made, and it was astounding to think, oh, good grief, she was a part of a pyramid scheme for 3 years. Pretty much,
and she got her wisdom tooth removed the day before her wedding, and she accidentally cursed out the principal.
Exactly, yeah. And then, on top of that, there was, the fact that she even blames herself for, moving the family over to Gracefield just for the sake of seeing if her dad would get better, and they all knew how that turned out. Pretty much, and so she even blames herself for that, and she says, well, unless I make these we'll make these mistakes. By the way, I think it's unfair of Camila, again, she kind of shows that she really, Luz really takes after her mother, because I don't think it's, her fault that, the special hospital at Gracefield couldn't help her husband. Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, he got sick, and that's what, your family does, is that you go over as close as you can so that you can be with them. And it reminds me of when my dad was sick, and we moved over to an apartment that was literally 2 minutes away from the hospital. So whenever that he had his, moments, that we can be able to just rush him over as quick as we could. And the place that we were living in was not very ideal. It was pretty small and cramped, but we did it for the sake of my dad. And I understand that Camila was I regret it that we had to move away from a place that we knew of so that we can be able to be with your dad. And we felt that it was just a waste of time, because eventually he passed on, and now we're living in this new life without him.
I would like to have known, where were they living before all of this?
That's a good question. Where were they living before this? Were they still living in Connecticut? Did they live somewhere else? I don't know.
I wonder if they were still living in Dominican Republic at the time. Maybe.
That would be maybe that would be really cool. If so, where in Dominican Republic? Santo Domingo, Punta Cana, Higüey? I want to know.
Wherever Americans can identify with the most, I could probably imagine. But
probably Santo Domingo or Punta Cana, since it's mostly a very well-known tourist attraction.
Maybe, but obviously, again, it would be interesting to see where they would have where they really ended up. I don't know. Maybe they might have ended up where's a place in not maybe in New York State. Where's a really popular area where the Latino community kind of all the Central American community kind of go around. It just
depends, because I mean, again, New York is very possible, because there's a huge Dominican community over in Brooklyn, or if you were to go to Queens in Spanish Harlem, that's also another option. Another one that I can think of, if you want to go more toward the Cuban side, Florida would probably be it.
I don't think they were from Florida. I don't think.
Yeah, I think maybe New York would probably be the closest equivalent.
I would probably imagine they were probably from Brooklyn. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe
it makes a lot of sense, because there are a lot of people who are, who came from Dominican Republic and traveled over to Brooklyn. And there, before I moved over to Florida, when I was still living in Brooklyn with my family, we lived in a neighborhood that was filled with a lot of Hispanics over there, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, all kinds of people. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was the case.
Was that south of Miami? Was it? Or
well, when I was living in Florida, I was living around the Fort Lauderdale area, and then I lived in West Palm Beach.
Oh, okay, then, yeah.
And when I lived in New York, I lived around Brooklyn. More specifically, I lived in Sunset Park. So that's where I was from. And Sunset Park area is filled with a lot of Hispanics.
Okay, then. So regardless of where they were originally, they moved because of Manny, and obviously Manny unfortunately passed away. After they moved, and then they were stuck where they were. And so, Camila, opens up her heart and she makes a lot of mistakes, but then she says, look, I make a lot of mistakes, but that's all part of life, and that's how you learn from doing all of this stuff. And she said, and then she says, the biggest mistake I ever did was break what was it, a thing, I can't remember what it was called, the solar code or something like that, the cosmic code.
Yeah, the code that she was talking about, where it was from Cosmic Frontier, about taking care of your family and all that kind of stuff.
I love this touch, because she's and then Liz says, wait, Mom, are you a secret nerd? And it's like. It's like, yeah, she is. It's like, and that's they needed to have more of these types of conversations. I'm really glad that this conversation came up in this episode, because I didn't feel like what happened in Thanks to Them, I think, was enough. I think for them to kind of like rekindle like everything that had happened, pretty much. Like, the fact that Lewis had run away and everything like that, and like Lewis saying, Mom, why aren't you mad at me? And, like, they didn't really have a chance to like really explore too much at the end of that conversation. And I'm really glad that they added all this stuff in to like really wrap things up and build Luz up to the moment where she realizes her her kind of purpose in what she wants to do, and she just wants to be understood, and that awakens her palisman, pretty much.
Yes. And you know what? I was so touched when she said, I just wanted to be understood, because isn't it the case in which when you're an awkward teenager that you want to be understood by your peers, especially as a person like Luz, who is into really crazy, unique things, that is ostracized by pretty much everyone to the point in which she had nobody to be alongside with?
Yeah, it's like, that's a societal thing. Like, we just seem to have this society where we have like these expectations. Like, do you remember back in the day, back in the 90s, where like, if you were listening to like things like Metallica and Nirvana and like, all these like these grunge groups, like, you were considered like the outcast of the group, pretty much. And like,
exactly,
and nowadays, like, today it's kind of like, oh wow, there were a lot of outcasts in school, because like, now everyone stopped talking about them, pretty much. Like,
I mean, it's true, because I don't know about you, Aaron, but when I was a kid, you did your very best to act normal towards everybody, because
Quote, unquote,
if you were into
normal.
one thing that I know exactly what is normal.
What is normal?
Yeah, I know. But basically what I was trying to say is that if you weren't into the same things that everybody else was, then you were considered to be the weird one, and nobody wanted to be near you, because then their reputations of hanging out with the weird one would have basically made them unpopular. So they had to stick through to this regimen of liking the same things, being with the same people, dressing up in a similar way, liking the same shows. And if you didn't follow in that trend, then nobody wanted to be around you.
Do you ever notice that some of the shows, I guarantee you, the Owl House back in the 90s would probably not be a popular show. I could probably
Absolutely
imagine.
not.
No, exactly. And, it's, I can probably imagine it would be a cult classic, if anything. Like, there would be a lot of people talking about it today, but they wouldn't be talking about it when it was actually on the air. Back in, if this was a 90s show, which, I think would have been a shame, because, like, I could see the Owl House, competing pretty much for space with, like, say, for example, like, the Gummy Bears and, like, Tailspin and, various of the other, even Gargoyles. Like, if I was told, like, I was stopped watching Gargoyles, and then all of a sudden I was told, coming up next is going to be the Owl House, I'd be like, fuck yeah. What a great show. Like, what a great Disney afternoon I'm having right now.
The taste of TV shows has drastically changed, where, if you weren't trying to be like The Simpsons, The Ren and Stimpy Show, or Batman the Animated Series, you were kind of like the outcast,
Do you ever know, like, some of the shows that were supposedly popular, weren't really all that great? Like, Saved by the Bell, for example. Like, it's like, yeah, and I get, like, there are some people who love Saved by the Bell, don't get me wrong, but, like, let's be honest, like, it was a pretty cheesy sitcom. When you really think about it. And, like, what were some of the other shows that were, like, I remember that, there's all sorts of shows that supposedly you were supposed to like, but then, when you look back at them now, it's kind of like, good grief, how do we sucker ourselves into thinking that these were good shows?
It's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because I think I remember somebody saying, man, I hear people talking about Friends, and it was such a good show back then, and I watch it, and I was like, oh, man, why did you guys in the 90s like this show? It's full of cringe and full of like outdated depictions of what people were. Now, I haven't seen Friends in a long time, so I cannot say from how people feel about it now compared to when it came out almost 30 years ago. Another example I can think of is like Full House.
Also, the one of the things about Friends, I think there was only like really one breakout star of that show, and that was Jennifer Aniston. Pretty much.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, even though that some people still remember people like Lisa Kudrow and David Schwimmer, but yeah, I think Jennifer
what I'm
Aniston
saying is,
was
like, who out of the Friends actually went on to, like, have a really successful career. Pretty much, like, Matt LeBlanc's spin-off show didn't do all that well, and then he ended up...
Joey, I remember.
I remember Joey, and then he ended up on Top Gear, pretty much, after, Jeremy Clarkson, got himself kicked off the show, pretty much. And then, I was trying to think, like, some of the other ones didn't really go on to kind of like do really anything else. I mean, David Schwimmer ended up in that really.
Courtney Cox is still doing a lot of sitcoms, so
Well, yeah, but
that's one example.
I mean, like, yeah, but like, Jennifer Aniston, I think has probably been, unless I'm probably wrong, Jennifer Aniston's probably like been the most successful out of a lot of them. I think I would say.
Probably, yeah. I know that Courtney Cox did things like the Scream series, and she's been in a lot of sitcoms. But yeah, if I were to say, like, out of the 6, who was the most successful, I would have easily said Jennifer Aniston.
Exactly, yeah. Anyway,
and another example I can think of is like, oh, this show was really popular at the time, but now it's pretty cheesy now, is Full House. It's like, okay, we have this show that, oh, you have these cheesy catchphrases, and every episode they wrap things up with the moral and everybody hugs in the end. It's like, oh man, it's so cheesy. I remember people saying stuff like that.
Yeah, but the point we're making, everybody, is that there's going to be one thing I'm actually looking forward to is like all the reaction videos. I've already seen Elijah's, by the way, the not so average fangirl. I've already seen hers today, and when that thing came up, like, she related to that so much. Pretty much. And I guarantee you, a lot of people who are going to be doing action, like the Third Bill and Morgan Terry and, I Am Zamba and like all these other reaction people who are going to be doing the reactions of this show, also a shout out to, also the lass as well. I can't remember her full name, but I started watching her videos too, reaction videos too. I guarantee when they see that
also,
scene.
Various other people. Yeah, like the Third Bill and, our buddy Fusionator.
Oh yeah, Fusionator as well. Yeah, exactly. Like all these guys. When they see that scene, I guarantee you that's going to be the most relatable scene, out of the entire reaction of every single video. I think.
Oh, for sure.
That's one calibration I want to see. All the mix-ups that they do. Like, you see in the YouTube videos where they'll take one scene and like they'll put like all the reactions together and like they'll show you like how everyone's reacting.
Oh yeah, I've seen that for like a lot of video games.
Exactly, yeah. So that's one I want to see, and because that scene, I think was probably except for probably Huntlow and probably the exception of like maybe like to one or two others, like that's probably like the best scene out of the entire episode.
It almost made me tear up because I felt exactly the same way as Luce
when
I was a kid.
A lot of people will be crying over this episode again. There's nothing.
Yeah, but it wasn't like crying because something bad happened. It was because that now she's able to fully understand that everything that she had done up to this point wasn't her fault, and she was trying so hard to make people understand on who she was. And now that she heard it from her mom saying, I do understand, and I'm so sorry that I tried to change you from who you were because already you're an amazing person. And I'm like, wow, this is exactly what Luce wanted to hear from the very beginning. And that's great. I think that everybody wanted to hear from somebody, whether it's a friend or a parent or a figure in their lives that have been really close to them. I think that message is going to really resonate with so many people.
Yeah. And then we get the reveal of Luce's palisman, which effectively, in my opinion, is her going Super Saiyan. Pretty much it is. I mean, it is. Look how powerful it is. Like, she did like a massive blast. And like, she's like, oh, hey, I don't really know how to control this thing yet. And like, you got even Willow saying like, why does this make me nervous? And I'm just going to say, no, this makes me really excited, actually. Like, hey, here's the thing about this. I can see Luce going one-on-one with the Collector with this thing. I really can.
Oh, that'd be really interesting.
Well, I mean, like, it's just this is when Sonic goes like Mega Sonic pretty much, like Super Sonic. Sorry, I do apologize. But
maybe that was in Mega Sonic. I don't know. But, maybe you're right. I mean, this palisman comes along, and even before it's formed, it knows how to fly, and it could go really, really fast. And Luce has this really close connection to it. It's great. I am super excited for Luce's palisman.
She's the White Ranger out of the Power Rangers. Let me say, like she's the one with the big Megazord. Yeah, pretty much. Like, yeah, I just like this is I'm getting excited for the next episode. I really am. And like, by the way, this, I mean, I'm not saying this like as a bad thing for this episode. Like, the one thing that the Owl House does very, very well, and you'll notice this if you watch. I mean, forget the first 5 episodes of the show, by the way. Like, obviously they're done to please the Disney executives, but like throughout the 1.5 and the whole of season 2. Pretty much, like, this show makes you really, really excited to, like, see what happens next. And that's a great thing about this. Like, you are hooked. Everybody I know right now who is currently talking about the Owl House are absolutely hooked on April at the minute to see what the grand finale of this is going to be. pretty much. And
Yeah.
we don't even talk about most of the other stuff that actually happened in the show as well.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm sure that once we discuss about it in casual chats, we can go full on in depth with it. So if you want to hear more of our discussions of it, then go check out the episode of Casual Chats when that comes out sometime this week.
Okay then. And hang on a second. I thought we said we were going to be doing. Are we going to do casual chats on this?
Yeah, we are.
Okay then. Well, I mean, we're going 50 minutes on this right now, so we've sort of talked it out quite a lot. So.
Well, okay, fair enough. If you want to just leave that discussion as it is, and then maybe we'll discuss about something else for casual.
I think the one thing that we definitely need to do, and I think maybe we'll probably leave this to our audience, maybe is that once it's all said and done, I think maybe for the final, maybe we should do like a final casual chats for like the final episode, and we don't just put ourselves in, but we put everybody else in too.
Okay, that sounds like a better idea.
Yeah, let's go that route. So, I'm sorry everyone's talking production during the show, but so I think one thing we'll probably end up doing is that let's get to the final episode, let's bring everybody together, and then let's just talk this whole thing out and say, okay, this is season 3, and this is the final episode, and what do we all think? But
all right, sounds great.
So, but anyway, continuing on, because we're not even some of the stuff that we talked about isn't even scratching the where we still got other things.
There's still so much to talk about, the reactions of everybody who's been with the collector, like Odalia and Tara, and also we didn't even mention about the fact that we have Ida and Lilith who are hiding away, and King is coming up with a plan of trying to take down the collector in a way that doesn't involve with trapping him, and also with the fact that.
But so what happens to Amity's dad in all of this?
Yeah, you're right. We still haven't seen Amity's dad. I mean, we were trying to look through the crowd of all the people who have been turned into puppets, and we couldn't find Amity's dad. We see Willow's dad, but we don't see Amity's dad.
Yeah.
So that's a good question. Where is he?
Where's Albert in all of this? Have you noticed?
Yeah, exactly. There's still so many people that are still missing, and we're trying to figure out, okay, we know where some of the kids in Hexside are, we know where some of the adults are, we know where some of the Coven heads are, but yeah, there's still some characters that are missing, but, I'm sure that at some point when we get to the last episode in April, then we'll find out, okay, we're going to have everybody gathered together, and they're going to be taking down the Collector, or they'll take down Belos as Rain, but again, we'll just have to wait and see until that happens.
It makes me wonder, I mean, are we potentially looking at also the Bat Queen we've not seen in a long while at this point? We mentioned it in the episode. I mean, are we going to get to a bit where all our heroes look like they're about to be defeated by the Collector, and then all of a sudden the Bat Queen comes in starts carries the Collector away or something like that? I don't know. All these wild palisman start attacking and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean, maybe it'll be like in the final scenes of Amphibia, in which all the characters gather together to defeat King Andreas. Mm-hmm. So maybe all the characters from the Boiling Isles will gather together to either defeat the Collector or to defeat Emperor Belos, depending on who the final adversary is.
It makes me wonder, I'm guessing Belos' endgame, I think, in all of this is the Collector trying to destroy everybody, I guess, or turn everybody into puppets and toys and things like that, I guess. I think that's probably his endgame out of all of this.
I mean, that's the whole thing about the Collector, is that he's just a little kid who wants nothing more than just to play games and to have fun, and not being lonely.
I understand the Collector's point of view, but Belos' point of view in all of this, is he just lost it at this point? Is he on a suicide mission just to kind of destroy all these witches?
I mean, at this point in time, he's at his lowest point. He's now nothing but just a broken down Wendigo creature filled with goop and broken bones, trying to crawl himself, and he's just doing all he can so that he can be able to do his task of getting rid of all the witches, and whether that he's able to accomplish it fully or not, I mean, he's gonna do it regardless. So yeah, he's at his wit's end.
Mm-hmm. So there's that, and mind you, interesting to see where Odalia, comes out of all of this. Pretty much, she's pretty much just went to the side of at this point. She's she's pretty much the Collector's underling at this point. Just organizing.
They're all the Collector's underling. I mean, we see Tara, who's basically been really mean and controlling, and now she's demoted to dressing up as Ida. And we have Odalia, who wants nothing more to be alongside with Belos or whoever is in charge, just so that she can be able to have some part in having her family be on the top. And now she's degrading dedicating herself to being a part of being Mama Dahlia over to the Collector and making pizza bagels and putting all of the stuff away. So yeah, I mean, I take it that this is not going to be the last time we're going to see Odalia.
No, it definitely isn't. And why don't you like? I think we're pretty much now, unless there's something else that's we're missing here. Like well, I guess we're pushing into like the next episode and seeing where we're going to go from here. Like we leave off with the Collector saying that we're gonna play a new game, and clicks his fingers, and then that's the end of the episode. So I'm guessing maybe that I don't know what game he's got in mind. Like, is he gonna want to play the Owl House with like all these characters? Pretty much,
That's a really good question. I mean, I don't know. Now that Luce is back, and now that her friends are back, and knowing that the Collector was always kind of like second banana compared to Luce, because the Collector wasn't even allowed to touch Francois, and saying that only one other person has able to give him a hug or to, be alongside with him, and that was Luce. And he was jealous of Luce, saying, "Oh, it's that human." So I have a feeling that there's going to be some tension between the two of them.
Oh, good grief! Like, imagine if. Luz is trying her best to trying to be a good nature to the Collector, and the Collector is just getting angry, and oh good grief! Imagine if the Collector turns Camila into one of those puppets, and all hell breaks loose.
Ooh, man!
All hell breaks loose.
Yeah, and now Luz is gonna be like really just angry at the Collector and just doing her full power.
When have we seen, I mean, besides when King made fun of her writing in that episode, I mean, like, when have we seen Luz actually, totally lost it? Like, not like she's crying or like she's pulling her hair or like, she's stressed and stuff like that. Like, she wants to go full force on somebody. Like, she wants to go on the attack. Like, have we seen that in the show yet?
I don't think so.
Oh, good grief! Like, if Collector decides to push Luz's buttons and Luz decides to act violently out of that, good grief!
That'll
be an epic battle. Oh, wow.
Oh, boy. I mean, and speaking of which, I guess we forgot to mention about Luce's palisman. So the whole fan base was asking about, what's it going to be? Is it going to be a bat? Is it going to be an owl? Is it going to be an otter? Is it going to be a snake? And even the characters point this out because clearly they know the fan base. And the answer is, it's everything.
Yeah, like it
is a snake shifter by the name of Stringbean, and it looks like a cross between Dratini, Ekans, and Ditto.
Who's that Pokemon? No. Tell you what, that's one thing Pokemon hasn't done yet. Like a shape, unless I'm wrong, like, they haven't done like a Shang Tsung kind of like Pokemon yet, have they?
It's called Ditto, babe.
Alright then. But, alright, Pokemon's done everything. Goodbye, everybody.
Yes. Had you known at this point, we talked about this last week, that they have now 1,000 Pokemon.
Yeah, I didn't think they had like a Shang Tsung Pokemon, but okay then.
They had it from the very beginning, babe.
Did they? Alright then.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, but anyway, putting that aside, my lack of Pokemon knowledge,
go to your corner. You're grounded from Pokemon.
Anyway, Snake Shifter, that's what we're talking about, Snake Shifter.
Yeah, the Snake Shifter, its name is Stringbean, and the fact that he's able to transform into like a hairy dragon and a scorpion and a snake, it's adorable to say the least.
Yeah, and everyone over at the Mystery Shack saying buy the toys. Oh,
yes.
They've got a winner there pretty much. They have a winner.
Of course they do. Like, why not?
I think everyone's had a winner with this palisman.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody should be happy about this because it's like, what is Luce's palisman? The answer is yes.
Yes. Whatever you want it to be. Like,
yes, whatever you want it to be.
I was actually content of it like being a galaxy full of like possibilities, like where it's just like this whole like orb, because it kind of like that's what it was like at the very beginning of the show. Well, like when they were doing the whole Azura book report, and like he was showing like Azura with like kind of like a bazooka kind of like looking like thing. I thought it was going to be that. I thought, but Maureen Walk I think had a cooler idea when he made it into a gauntlet. Do you remember that?
Yes, I
Oh,
remember. It was like a gauntlet that can be able to utilize all of Luce's glyphs.
yeah, that was a more awesome kind of idea, and I had that for my idea, for, like when we did like the whole Avengers, thing that I was talking about as well. But I mean, regardless of that, I'm happy with what we've got pretty much, and like it looks so powerful that if King isn't able to defeat the Collector, I think Luz can. I think it gives me confidence that she can take this little weird kid on, pretty much.
Yeah, especially since, she's been guilty all this time thinking that everything that she's been doing has been her fault. Like, oh, it's my fault that I gave Philip information about the glyphs. And, oh, it's my fault that all of my friends are trapped in the human realm. It's my fault that Ida and Lilith are cursed with the owl beast even further. It's my fault that now the Collector has taken over the Boiling Isles. So she's been blaming herself of everything this entire time. And, hopefully, thanks to her mom telling her that, making mistakes is really important so that you can be able to learn from them, which is giving me As Told by Ginger vibes when Lois talks to Ginger about the importance of making mistakes so that we can be able to grow. But hopefully that this last battle with either the Collector or with Belos, that she can be able to showcase that no, she's actually the hero of the Boiling Isles, and everything that she's done has been for the benefits and the goods of it. It hasn't been for the bad.
Yeah. So, it's going to be interesting to see where we go from here, pretty much. And have we actually got a name for the last episode? Yeah, or are we?
Yeah, the name of the last episode. I've been hearing a lot of people saying that it's Watching and Dreaming, but it hasn't been officially announced yet. So let's just put that as maybe an asterisk saying that maybe it is called Watching and Dreaming.
Okay, well, if it's called Watching and Dreaming, then that's going to be the next episode of the show. That's the final episode of the Owl House.
Yeah, it is the last episode. It's our last 45-minute special right before the series ends.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, actually, this episode actually went 48 minutes, pretty much. It was a pretty long episode when you really think about it.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because we had Thanks to Them, which was 46 minutes, and then we had For the Future, which was 48 minutes. So do you think that maybe they can push it a little bit longer, like maybe 50 minutes?
Yeah, make it 50 minutes. Yeah. Or even let's skip the ad breaks. Just make it an hour. Because here's the thing, it's going up on YouTube anyway, from the looks of it. That seems to be the way that things are going, or, I don't know, what are they going to do with the final episode? Are they going to say, okay, you either got to see it on the Disney Channel, or you got to wait until Disney Plus puts it up? Interesting to see what they do.
I don't know. And speaking of Disney Plus, as of the making of this podcast, it will be coming out, I believe, on February 8th. So that'll
be... It makes you wonder why, because, it's already up on YouTube. Pretty much, it's not like you need a Disney Plus subscription now to watch the final episodes of the Owl House, pretty much. So unless they decide to take them down at some point, which I think we're kind of stupid to do. But
yeah, that's true, and especially since Thanks to Them, I don't think it's up on is on Disney Plus yet.
Yeah, exactly. So eventually they will put them up just for the sake of completing the collection. Pretty much, and actually that's interesting as well. Are we actually going to see Owl House Blu-rays or DVDs, or are we going to see
that's
a
good question? Have we had any DVDs of these shows in recent years? I know we have a Gravity Falls DVD and Blu-ray, but I haven't seen any of the other stuff like Big City Greens or Amphibia.
Well, Amphibia only. How long ago did Amphibia finish? It was only
less than a year ago.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think there's been time yet to organize stuff like that. I don't think, because it took a while for all the. Remember, in the day, when the shows went up, it took an ages for for them finally to get released on VHS and DVD and stuff like that.
That's true. You're right.
Exactly. It's gonna take time, I think, to organize all, because I guarantee you, there's going to be organizing, rights and money, and who's going to basically do what, this, that, and the other. I guarantee there's going to be a whole discussion over that, over distribution, and whether actually there's going to be a discussion over that at all. Maybe they might even wait a good couple of years. Maybe they might turn around and say, oh well, maybe it'll be a 10-year anniversary edition, or maybe a 15-year anniversary edition, or something like that. Which would suck.
Possibly.
But I can see them doing let's wait for a particular time to release Blu-rays and DVDs and stuff like that. I can guarantee. I think if they don't release it soonish, I think they're probably going to wait for an anniversary and then probably release it then. Maybe, I don't know. So that's kind of how I feel about it. But anyway, so the final episode of the Owl House, if we want to do speculation now, I'm suspecting that they are going to be playing the Collector's games pretty much, and I think maybe they'll probably keep winning, and the Collector won't like it, and then he'll start breaking the rules and stuff like that. Then everyone's start complaining it's unfair, and then just all hell will break loose. Maybe. So
yeah, maybe we'll finally get some more information about where the other collectors are. The fact that he's all by himself, and then the collector starts telling his story about what happened to them, and then we finally get some confirmed discussions from both the collector and from maybe Luce and the rest of the gang about why he's acting the way he is.
What if the other collectors come over and they're threatening to destroy everything, and then they turn around and say, well, hang on a second, the only reason why the collector is where he is because Belos did, and they pin it all on Belos, and Belos ends up getting destroyed by the collectors. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's one thing that they could do.
Yeah, speaking of Belos, now that he has control over Rain, I wonder where that's going to go in terms of if he's going to stay in this body, if he's going to control the collector. I mean, that's also another thing.
He's trying to do you remember when he actually, that's one thing we actually didn't talk about in the show. Do you remember when he actually went into the bedroom and tried to possess the collector? Did you see that?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Good grief! That was that. Maybe he might do that. Maybe he might put himself in the collector, and then good grief! Now they gotta, after Belos has possessed the collector, now they're gonna somehow try and defeat him or get him out of it. I don't know. He's just
exactly. He's just waiting for that one moment for the collector to let down his guard, and then finally he can be able to possess him, and then all hell breaks loose with infinite cosmic power.
Yeah, and all that comes with it. Itty bitty living space.
Bitty living space.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get that, but
no.
It's there's a lot of possibilities they can go with. Obviously, the Rain being possessed thing is obviously will be a big thing. What's Ida gonna make of all of this? Good grief! Is Rain?
Oh man, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, what's Ida gonna make of all of this? What's everyone gonna make of all of this? Really? And
well, especially Ida, since she's always been concerned with Rain. The fact that she even tries to step out just a little bit so that she can be able to check on Rain to see how they're doing. And even though it sets up the alarm of all the Coven heads trying to attack Ida, she still cares for them.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's plenty of ways that we're going to go with this. I think, dare I say, maybe the focus might be taken off a little bit off the kids, maybe, and the focus is going to be on wrapping up with Belos, wrapping up with the Collector, wrapping up with King. And wrapping up with other characters.
I know that Dana Terrace had said in the charity stream interview that the last episodes of season 3 were going to wrap up the story of Luce, Ida, and King, and basically put everything into a close. But I don't know, 48 minutes, I don't think it's going to be enough time to tie everything really neatly.
But again, we don't know if the first episode was 46 minutes. This one was 48 minutes, so they are pushing the boundaries a little bit. Maybe they might push it even further. Maybe we might even get more Owl House as the end. Possibly. I don't know.
Possibly, yeah. So. But again, we still don't know. I mean, as far as I know, in terms of everybody recording their lines, as of the making of this podcast, I just recently saw Rebecca Rose's post-hoot discussions over at Sissy Jones Lynn's Instagram, and as of yesterday, that Sarah Nicole Robles and Sissy Jones Lynn just recorded their last lines as Luce and Lilith, and even Sarah and Sissy were saying that they broke down crying as soon as they were done in their cars. So whatever's going to be happening, it's going to be pretty big.
I probably imagine it will be. So. And mind you, just because this part of the Owl House is ending, I don't know, maybe, who knows, I don't know where we're going to go from here, I don't think, in regards to, could we potentially see spin-offs, could we potentially see, other things, I don't know, I get it. I mean, obviously there's going to be the Chibi-verse. I mean, there'll always be the Chibi-verse from the looks of it. It looks like it's going on really well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know, I get the feeling that we're not, we might be done with this rendition of the Owl House. I mean, I guarantee you, maybe 20 years' time, they'll try and reboot it.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I can see it. Like, oh, hey, everybody, the Owl House is coming back. Oh, wait, it's not with Dana, and it's, we're all in 3D, and, it looks real. Like, oh, it's been done with AI. It's like, no, thank you.
Yeah, and we've been seeing a lot of reboots based off of 2000 shows in recent years, or more like continuations. We've seen this with Nickelodeon, where they brought back iCarly and now Zoe 101, and they brought it back as TV movies, showcasing the characters as adults. That 90s show, which was a show from the 90s, that is a continuation of that 70s show. So there have been a lot of cases in which, these things are coming back, and a lot of people are saying, oh, okay, well, if it's going to come back, that's great, but it depends on its execution. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe like 20, 30 years' time that we'll probably see a different interpretation of the Owl House.
Uh-huh. All right, everybody. So I guess you could say this is our, for part one of Aaron and Patricia / casual chats, I guess you could say, of the Owl House for the future. And I'm sure Patricia's going to post this up on the Owl School Lane channel.
Yeah, I'm going to post it up for sure. That way people can actually tune in and find out what our thoughts are right before we get into the biggin'.
Well, the other news as well, yeah. So, all right, everybody. So, what we're going to do is we are going to end part one of Aaron and Patricia, or you can say this video for casual chats on Old School Lane. And what we'll do is we are going to continue on with part two. Stick around for part two because we've got some Nickelodeon news, we've got some Cartoon Network news, we've got some Animaniac stuff, we've also got some Sailor Moon, and also got some video game stuff to go through as well. So, if you're not going to stick around for part two, then take care and bye-bye for now. And if you are going to go to part two, we'll see you in part two. Bye-bye.
All right, see you in part two, everyone. See ya.